allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now call this meeting to order. Roll call shows that everyone is here except for Julie Arndt Vandenheuvel, and she was excused. Are there any agenda changes? Okay, then we will move to number 4, consent agenda. We have the April 4th, 2019 regular board meeting minutes. We have licenses and permits. Operator's license, Tracy Schultz. And then presentation of accounts and other claims against the village. We have the April 18th, 2019 invoice listing. The village invoices are $503,314.90. April 18th, 2019 direct deposit payroll is $32,711.78 for a total of $536,2668. Water and sewer utility invoices are $342,435.64. Are there any questions or corrections? Seeing none, could I have a motion?
To approve the consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay.
I wasn't here.
And are there any pre-registered citizens to be heard?
No.
And it doesn't look like there are any committee reports. Unfinished business from previous meetings. There is nothing. New business. Resolution R-419, preliminary resolution declaring intent to exercise special assessment powers for the Grandview Road reconstruction project.
I'll take that, and probably with Bob's help. Again, this is a preliminary resolution. We also included, I believe in the packet was the preliminary assessment report, which we're not required to have done yet, but we're ahead of the game on that. Again, preliminary resolution, what we're doing, we're setting the stage for a public hearing at the next board meeting, if I'm correct.
Correct.
We will be getting everything mailed out early next week, I believe. We gotta mail out the public hearing materials 10 days to those affected, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Again, we're looking to approve resolution R-4-19. Is there any questions regarding this assessment?
There is a schedule in your packet of proposed.
If no one has any questions, could we have a motion, please?
Also moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? B is O-5-19 to amend ordinance 10.0556.
I'll take this one, also in your packet. This is something that we've talked about at the prior 2 meetings with current language. What was included in your packet tonight for sections 5 and 6. This has gone through my chair, my pen, and then Bob has revised it. The current language that you see provided for you tonight is what was recommended by legal counsel. So it would be up for discussion before approval. Again, this has gone through 2 meetings of discussion. So again, it's at your pleasure how you want to act upon the current language.
Does anyone have any questions?
In the last meeting when I was sitting out here, I don't recall anyone mentioning the part about the locally, if they live locally, they're being served personally. That's in here. All I heard on the last last one, is that a change? All I heard in the previous meeting was certified mail and the expense behind
No,
certified mail.
Our old
Did-
one.
Okay, it's not like it applied to me, so I wasn't paying that close of attention, I just wanted to clarify.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Are we looking for a motion to approve this tonight?
Yes, ma'am.
Could I please have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. C is 0-6-19, creating ordinance 7.11.
I will also start with this one. This came through the Public Safety Committee, and again, this one was discussed at the last two meetings as well for language and content. I don't know if Chris wants to add anything as the chief of police. A lot of this came from your desk. You know, what your thoughts are before we make a motion to approve this?
The only thing that we did, we discussed at the last meeting was, on the 7.11, sub A is compliance with the directional signals and markings. No person shall enter, exit, or enter and immediately exit no through street without stopping at said posted business, to conduct business, or to park a vehicle within the parking lot or cemetery. So that's gonna be like, it's gonna apply to here. So what we'll do is, we'll have somebody, with the DPW, we'll look at putting additional signs out, maybe into the parking lot a little bit more, because the other ones are so close to the road that I don't think people are seeing them. So, cemetery, the Dairy Queen, this would help them too, because like I said in the last meeting, and then, Gilbert's.
BP.
Yeah.
BP's.
People have been cutting the corner at BP as well now to avoid this traffic signal. So we're getting complaints on that. Dairy Queen, drive-through, Gilbert's, Dollar General.
Can we do that on private property though? BP's private property?
Yes, as long as you have, and all of them are, Dairy Queen and everything else too. As long as they put the signs up, the way that, because it's an ordinance, but because there is no law against it, so that I can't write anything as a state statute, for somebody to cut through a parking lot.
So if the signs are up and somebody violates it, you can ticket them
Yes.
on private property?
Because of this ordinance.
Right.
Because
She's
of
just
the
saying
ordinance.
there's no corresponding state law.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there like a specification for the sign? So, I mean, obviously it has to be visible, but,
No,
because I'm thinking like BP, there's no place for them to put a sign anywhere unless they put up, like a little folding,
Right.
otherwise there's no place to plant
no.
the sign.
no, again, because there's no state law in this, there wouldn't be any specifications. And I guess Carl and Chris will want to get it, there goes one right there.
There's a drive-through.
Yeah.
We'll
You know,
just try
you'll
to
be
make
looking
sure
at, right, because,
they meet the MUTCDs.
because that would be an argument when they come into court, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I believe that the state statute, that there is a state statute that states that if you are trying to avoid a stop and go light, then you can be ticketed. However, there is no stop and go light that they're trying to get around at Dairy Queen, Gilbert's. I mean, you could say that they're trying to not stop at the stop and go light at Main Street and Warner. But how are you gonna, we could say, well, I was gonna go to the bank, or I was gonna go someplace else, so.
Yeah. I would just, it's common sense, but I'm just asking, like the BP can't put a sign up on the building.
Right.
And then people will drive in and they go, I can't see a sign.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay.
Right.
We don't get too many of those. The ones that
Yeah.
we're getting the complaints is like Dairy Queen. They're plugging up, the kids are plugging up their drive-through at night.
Yeah,
After
I
after
completely
school.
understand. I just was wondering if there's requirement for visibility.
And I don't, that's just what this, our new ordinance states, that you have to have a designated sign.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
I think other than color, there's not gonna be anything.
Me and Dan will work on any requirements, or, I mean, we can have internal requirements.
Yeah. And it's a common sense. It's just, you know, anything that's visible.
And I'm looking for a motion to approve O-6-19.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to D, O-7-19, to amend ordinance 7.0510.
Again, I can start with this one, and I'm gonna push it right off to Chris again. This, the language as provided by Bob and Chris, we started this one also 2 meetings ago, so we've hashed the language on this one a couple times. Chris provided it, Bob checked it off. The only question via email, Jim, is what you sent over to me. Potentially needing to add language yet for special requests to the police department for an extended, you know, a lot of the smaller, I've seen it in smaller municipalities where they, basically what we didn't put in here and probably should think about or have a recommendation or discussion on is whether or not, if somebody calls with a special request, would it be okay to have somebody go through the police department to, if they need to park for 48 hours on the special terms, is kind of what you're getting at, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, it came up in the discussion
correct.
in the last meeting.
It did, we didn't have language in it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think what we could do is, we can either bring it back with new language for another meeting, or we could approve it with a sentence that we have to add on, if that's how we wanted to address the special request, so.
Yeah, and in that vein, Chris, how do you see that? If somebody calls, if they wanted a variance, and they call the police department, I mean,
Right, and within the parking, the whole parking, the 7.01 through, I believe it's 16, it says it in several different areas, like overnight parking for winter restrictions and stuff like that, that all they have to do is call the police department, explain their circumstance or the situation. However, during the winter, we do get quite a few people who are the same people that are calling every night wanting to have that, and basically after a point, we have to tell them no, that you're just continuing to park there when you can't be parking there.
so the language you're suggesting then is already in other parts, you think?
I believe that it is. I know it's there for the winter parking.
So what you would be saying is someone had a camper and they wanted to park it all summer, you would deny it?
Right.
This would be a special request. Let's say I have a friend coming in for the weekend and they have a travel trailer. I'm not gonna be able to abide by the rules. I'm asking special permission to keep this on the road for
An
a night,
additional day or two.
additional day or two. As it's notified to the police department that when you come to this area, this is where it'll be parked, please don't ticket it. Or if they have a semi-tractor trailer or they're in town for the night, something like that. I guess there's not a allowable spot where they could park overnight anyway. So to get it off the road, it'd be almost impossible, so. But with permission, it would be allowable.
Would that make it more cumbersome for you to have that language in this section, or do you think it would be okay if it was just in the other?
I don't know that it says it on each one of the parking.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, I think I don't know if it's all without looking at it, I don't know if it's at the very end in the penalties, or it says,
No, I think that, like you said, it's, I see it in the snow emergency one, but I don't think there is a general provision for it.
yeah.
So if you want want to do it, we should add that language.
Right.
And just looking at what's already in there, we could simply say that the real general, the police department may give special permission to park beyond the term stated herein or something like that.
Yeah.
Does that do it?
Okay.
Does anyone have any other comments? Then could I have a motion for 4-7-19 with the changes that Bob suggested?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I will post the updated language and I'll have it for your review for the next meeting, okay?
E is lift station number 2, pump replacement.
I'll take that one. The lift station pumps are probably going on 7 years old now, which is an extremely long time, but they take out a lot of abuse, being over there near the high school and elementary and middle school. One of the things that tends to happen to pumps is they end up getting out of spec, out of clearance. What happens is the efficiency really drops off. It allows pumping efficiency goes down. It allows things to get jammed up in there a lot more frequently. So we're typically out there about once a month pulling something heavy out of there. And last time we were in there doing it, we noticed that one of the pumps has some pretty good damage and there's a pretty good crack in the casing. It may run fine for another year or two, but it could go tomorrow. And these things are typically, you have to order them out, and sometimes there's a 6-week delivery time. So I'd like to go ahead, the utility has one, I'd like to go ahead and just order new pumps. So, again, there are 2 quotes in your packet, but they're separated by some other documents. But the quote I'm looking for is from Crane Engineering for $9,624. And again, these types of pumps aren't the kind you find at Menards or Home Depot or anything like that. They're very special orders. So, they are expensive, but they work hard. Are there any questions regarding the lift station?
So the other pump is for something else, or was just a comparison?
No, there's 2 pumps in
Okay,
there.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they typically operate in lead and lag, and they switch back and forth every cycle. One's the lead, one cycle, one's the lead, the next cycle. It's a normal wear item.
Normal wear item underneath your maintenance budget.
Yeah. It's in the budget, but, yeah.
So you want a motion?
Yeah, I'm looking for a motion to approve the,
All right. I'll make a motion to,
Crane Engineering, yeah.
right, to order the new pumps from Crane Engineering for $9,624.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. F is paving addendums, Pine Street Alley number 2.
I'll take this one. Actually, I'm looking for 2 separate, well, I wouldn't call them, one's gonna be an addendum, one's gonna be just an authorization. The Pine Street addendum, last year when we bid out Michael Ricker Street, Brookwood Extension, and Pine Street together to get better pricing, the contractor ended up not getting in and doing Pine Street until just yesterday. They started today, actually. So we had money set aside last year that wasn't spent on that project. But what I'm looking for is, originally we bid out paving approximately 1/3 of the road from the post office up through to Cedar Street, and then the full width from Cedar to the cemetery. What I'm looking for is approval to fully pave, mill and repave from the post office to Cedar Street. Right now, it just looks like a bunch of repairs, and I think Peter's mentioned something about that before, but the utility has the money. The addendum says $22,000, but that, when an engineer writes an addendum, they're gonna do contingencies and extra tonnage and all that stuff. I fully expect it to come in at about 18.5, which it shouldn't be a problem for the utility. So there's that. The other addendum or authorization I'm looking for is, while they're in town, I want to have them repave the entrance going down into the parking area, what we call alley number 2. The full cost would be about $6,000, but if my guys remove the old material and get the base ready, I think it'll be about $4,000 to do that. And again, the utility would pay for that because that all got tore up when we had that major water main break there 3 years ago. So I'm looking for authorization for the addendum for Pine Street paving, which is part of the original Michael Ricker project. And I'm looking for authorization to pave alley number 2. Are there any questions about Pine Street?
It's a patchwork.
It is a patchwork. And we didn't want to do it because we never come back in there to patch it again, so. But the utility can do it, so.
So you need authorization to fully pave Pine Street for approximately
Yeah,
top end 18.5?
yeah. I was actually verbally quoted 16,000 by the former project coordinator from MCC, but he's out with an illness right now.
Okay,
So Ron Wolf basically just estimated it from an engineer's standpoint, so.
and a recommendation to repair alley 2, that must be right behind Bethlehem School.
No, that's alley number 1 is behind.
Oh,
Alley number 2 goes in behind Otter Creek.
oh, it does, okay.
Yeah, we had a really bad water main break there about 3 years ago, and then we just never got around to repairing the alley.
Okay.
We're always looking for the money, so.
So we're looking at a total cost of somewhere around 20 to 22
Yeah.
total.
Yeah. And that'll be system improvement fund money, which is basically the bank account for the utility, so.
Okay, I'll make that recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion of May 1st, time and place of the committee of the whole for interviews.
Correct. I'll take that one. When we left the meeting, the last village board meeting, it was an open discussion. We've since confirmed that court will take place. So on Wednesday, May 1st, at 6 o'clock, they also have court. So we need to make accommodations to conduct our committee of the whole meeting, which is technically, candidates are available or have the opportunity to apply through 4 o'clock on the 30th, which is Tuesday. So we have some options. We can either move the, potentially we could have to go to the Opera House and tape it there and do the interviews at the Opera House on Wednesday night as we have it scheduled, or suggestion might have been this room is available Tuesday night. If we wanted to go as early as Tuesday at 5 o'clock, we could be ready to do that, but it's at the discretion of this board if they're available on Tuesday rather than the Wednesday which we had decided on. So we can't interrupt the court
Right.
proceedings here, so, and then that would allow us to potentially make a recommendation for the May 2nd village board meeting, which is the Thursday of the week. So it's you just need to have, your discussion, who all wants to attend and what day is gonna work out best.
Personally,
Personally, I'd like to see it held here rather than 2 different locations. Jostle the schedule.
Does the interview, are they open to the public?
Technically, committee, the whole meetings are public.
Okay. I think it would probably be better off to have it here too, because
Okay.
otherwise, if somebody wanted to come,
It just comes
People
down
know
to
where to
then
go.
is everybody's available on the 30th of Tuesday. It would be a 5 o'clock. We could do a 5 o'clock or we could do a 6 o'clock. It's at your discretion. I'm not gonna ask staff to be they don't need to be a part of it. I'll be here. I'm gonna have the questions prepared. I will administer it. I will let you do the question asking to the candidates. We'll have to tape it per committee of the whole rules. And then I think the proper format would be to draw numbers to see the number of what we have, and then the people should probably wait outside, so they don't have to they can't hear the questions in advance, that way they're not preparing their answers. I think that's the proper format. This is open for suggestion here. And then I will walk the candidates in and out, and essentially, I'm hoping that we can come to an agreement that we should possibly bring 1 or 2 candidates up for discussion on the village board meeting on the 2nd. It's gonna be at your pleasure, though.
So I'm confused. Open meeting. So you're gonna bring the candidates in, they're gonna wait in the hallway? They won't know the questions, correct? That's what you're trying to?
Yes, because I think if you have the same person hearing the same question asked 6 times, potentially, they're gonna be able to prepare their answers well in advance of the person who might be going first.
So you're gonna waltz somebody in here to sit in front of us like we normally do.
Correct.
She'll ask the question. In the meantime, we have the gallery out there, right?
If we would have spectators, yes.
So Jane Doe gets up and walks up, talks to John Doe and said, this is the question.
We could, yeah, I mean, we may have to sequester them. I mean, that's an option.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, it
I
can
guess
happen.
anything's possible, Peter.
Yeah, I know.
I
To you, it's
guess
just not clean.
what's really hard about this, I understand we need to do this in open, we need to vote in open. But do we discuss openly for everyone in this village or whoever watches this tape to say, well, I don't like Joe Smith. I don't think Joe Smith's a good candidate because,
Well, okay, so
Uh,
were you thinking that deliberating and, yeah,
I'm
that would,
thinking-
if you wanted to meet collectively to discuss that, that would be appropriate for closed, for that reason.
because I
Yes.
don't think people should hear,
No, I agree with
even
you.
the candidates should not hear that
Correct.
we don't like you, we like you, we don't like this one. I don't think that's right,
No, I agree with you.
yeah.
But the rest of it, I would, you know, you have to have a good reason for going into closed, and that would be it.
Yes,
We just didn't think there was any good reason for the interview process itself to be in closed.
I don't think the interview process needs to be enclosed because, like you said, I got asked questions when I ran and it was in the paper and, everyone could read it. So these people are vying for a position on this board and they're trying to tell the public why they think they're the best candidate. So that is fine to have it open for the interview, open for the voting, but for the discussion, I think it should be in closed session. Does everyone
Agreed.
have an opinion on that?
I would agree with that. What time on the 30th are they supposed to have their?
By 4 PM.
Okay, so if somebody comes at 4 o'clock, they know they have to be,
I would tell them immediately,
Fine.
between myself, Gene, or, yeah, we would tell them immediately that they would have to be, because my intent is to, the ones that are pre-registered prior to Friday, I would tell them at the discretion of what this meeting goes, where and when they need to be done, to give them advance notice for the questionnaire.
Can everyone make the 30th?
it's a
What day
Tuesday.
of the week?
It's a
Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Yeah,
I think so.
at 4?
Everyone?
We could do, I mean, essentially, we could go at 4 o'clock. I mean, if you wanted to do 4 o'clock, we could do 4 o'clock. If you want to do 5 o'clock, it's up to the new members, or Julie will have, she'll have to take it as.
Well, Jim works till noon, don't you?
Well, yeah, well, I'm one of the few people who has the, I work outside of here too.
I work till 4:30.
Yeah,
also, so-
but some of the candidates might have
Yeah,
they might have to
I think-
work as well.
yep, I think we need to be
So,
respectful of that.
Yeah, I think you definitely need to be later, if at all possible.
Maybe a 6.
It's your discretion. We'll make whatever work.
Do, how many do we currently?
As of right now, there's 6.
Okay,
So with questioning, I mean, you potentially could have a 10 to 15 minute per, so at that point, you're looking at an hour and a half minimum, plus discussion to ensue. You potentially do a 6 to 8 o'clock,
Or 9,
or
or
later.
10, or, yeah.
yeah.
What's the soonest you can make it?
We're talking the last day of April, Tuesday?
30th.
Yes.
I,
If they're bent on becoming a board member, they'll make arrangements.
yeah,
4 o'clock is not,
4 o'clock is pretty tough for me. I mean, I can,
5 o'clock?
I would say 5.
I
5
think
is,
that
5
would
is
be
more
respectful
reasonable.
of anyone that works too, because not everybody can just get off.
Yeah, because I'm working in Nina, so it's, I mean, I'm leaving in the middle of the workday to come here, and, I'll work something in my schedule where hopefully I can, if I can work it out, I'll work in this area somewhere. But, yeah, I would still look at 5, because there's no way I can guarantee that's gonna happen.
Should we set it then for April 30th at 5?
Mhm.
And then you'll be getting a hold of the candidates?
Absolutely.
scheduling
If
them?
anybody comes in on April 30th to apply, I will let them know that they need to be there at 5 o'clock that evening then.
So,
Would
I'm
they need to
assuming,
be at 5 o'clock, or would they, or are you gonna kind of schedule the times?
I
can't
essentially,
make it?
it should be, I mean, you should, my procedure that I was gonna do was take the number of candidates and do a straw poll and let them draw, essentially pick their order. I don't think, and be very upfront with them and say, you don't need to stay here. If you go and answer the questions, you can leave. Because that person, if they go first, they don't need to sit, because they won't be made aware of the outcome that night. Essentially, what the village board would potentially do is pick, what I'm hoping they would want to do is pick at least 2 people that they want to put up for a recommendation on May 2nd. And then it would have to go to a vote. So that way we could let these people know that you're being, you know, you're the first choice or the second choice, and then so it's kind of, it's at your discretion. I'm just gonna follow through with what you want me to do, but, I don't think they need to stay here, because there's not gonna, they're not gonna know their fate that night.
Right.
I mean,
So essentially, they're gonna go in front of you and then they can leave.
I would
That part of
think,
it, I agree with David. Well, I guess my point was if somebody can't make it here till 4:30, if they could kind of schedule later to kind of leave it.
that's what I was thinking, some sort of,
Yeah.
like a
Or I know the order of what
accommodation.
they signed up, we could just have them, I could call them and tell them, give them 15-minute increments and tell them, we could do it that way too.
I think that's what we should do.
And we just have them scheduled, because I have them in order the way they came in, and I could tell them, you are at this time, you need to be here at this time.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if we start running over, they can just wait,
Okay.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. April 30th, starting at 5 o'clock, 15-minute increments.
Is everyone okay then with that?
Sure.
Okay. H is confirmation of appointment for planning and zoning. And who I picked for that was Tom Banker, Mike Belisle, and Roger Retzloff. There are 3 positions that are due up in 2019. Is anyone opposed to that, or do we need a motion to accept it?
Who was that third person?
Tom Baker,
Yep.
Mike Belisle,
Roger.
Roger Retzloff.
Oh,
Roger's currently on.
Roger is, and he said he would stay. And then I also talked to them about, the night they would like, and most of them were Wednesday. They preferred a Wednesday, the second Wednesday of the month. So can I, please have a motion then to accept these 3 people to the Planning and Zoning Board?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I is R-5-19, New London Press Star Publications.
I can take this. We talked about this briefly at the last board meeting, that we will get a much better rate with the New London Press Star. So this is just the resolution before you. We need a motion on that.
Does anyone have any questions for Jane? If not, could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then appointment of village trustee to co-sign village and utility checks in the absence of the clerk treasurer. And that would be Dan Nazizzo. And could I have a motion to accept Dan to sign the checks?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did you
Is
abstain?
that,
I think I should abstain, right?
For the record.
Yeah.
K is any other miscellaneous topics for future discussion.
I'm just, curious, I know we tabled the this was before you were here, David, but we tabled the wheel tax. Just looking at the amount of road work, I just thought I'd throw it out there again. Wondering if it's worth discussing. And then the other thing and I could talk to David directly about this, is the farmer's market. Did you make connections with yet, Cassie?
I thought you were gonna contact her and she was gonna contact me.
Yep, you didn't hear from her.
She hasn't
Okay,
contacted me, so.
Okay,
I have
I'll follow
notes waiting,
Okay.
I didn't wanna, I had reached out to you once other time before now. And,
Yep, and I
okay.
emailed, okay, I'll
Okay.
follow up with her.
Okay, yep.
Okay,
Whenever she's ready to walk in, I'm ready to meet with her.
great,
Sure.
thank you.
Then we are to reports of village officials and the administrator.
It's your copy I handed out to you prior to the meeting. 2 pages, yours is front and back. I'll be talking to the front, the second's an attachment that's noted on the minutes, or on my sheet here. Happy to report, on behalf of the Black Otter Lake District, myself, Carl, Nathan, and Al Haddock were in Rib Mountain. I was a representative for the Black Otter Lake District, to which we received a bid and an award for $35,842.25 for a grant to help offset the cost of the weed harvester for the Black Otter Lake District. In good faith, Al has mentioned that we're hoping all of that money comes back to the village, and they are looking to potentially partner with the village to build a storage facility for that weed harvester equipment, which would allow the village to store much needed storage for a lot of their maintenance equipment as well. So more to come on that. So that was great news that we received that grant. A lot of the Grandview project administrative work continues. To date, we have received 9 of the 11 temporary easements that require access to these person's property in order to accomplish the work needed. We've also had 1 of the 2 permanent easements having been negotiated. The second being with the second bullet point there is the Bashar Group, which are owners of Nash Hills. That's probably the most important piece of property to this project, because the majority of the watershed is gonna fall on that property. So we are in discussions with them. Having met with two of the 3 owners in that grouping, their intentions are more now as being 20-year property owners, that they are really advantageous, and they're potentially looking to develop the property. So we're hoping that they connect the dots. They have some serious inquiries out to other people. I'm being optimistic. I'm hoping we can get a deal done with something not only just to store their water, but to develop it further. So more to come on that, but Carl and I had that meeting last week, and it was a good meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, they seem like they want to work with the village, and that would be something for the betterment of the village. At this point, also working with Bob, there are 5 landowners that each own multiple parcels in the Grandview area. So we had allowed 1 of those landowners to combine parcels, which has now led to 5 landowners combining parcels. Essentially what it allows them to do is clean up multiple parcels, to take away the potential of 1, 2, or 3 assessments and combine their properties, so they're only being assessed for 1 of those. What we call it was a good faith move, and we did it for 1 gentleman who potentially serves as a thoroughfare to further development for the village. I'm not sure how word spread, but it spread, but it makes good, I call it good governance, that we open it up and let all the other parties that have multiple properties the opportunity to combine their lots at this time. So if there's any discussion on that, like I said, there was five of them, including the church. They had multiple listings and multiple parcels that would have been assessed. So at this time, we told them, you need to go through the proper channels through the county, certified survey maps, do it right, do it legally, and get those parcels combined, and then in lieu of assessment, you'd have 1 instead of 2 assessments. Most of you are aware, I hope you're aware, that we had a press conference on this past Monday, RU4-15. I would say we had great attendance and great coverage. In fact, this week we also heard a response from the governor. So it's pennies in the project. As of right now, $5.2 million are allotted to this project, which in the scope of things, when you $137 million project. It's really pennies. But as I spoke to Jim Steineke today, it's a start. We're on, hopefully this is the start of good things. So I'm being completely optimistic on this project that we can continually to move forward. I alluded to Mr. Steineke today that my job in the next 2 years is to make sure that they're aware that Hortonville exists, and I will do everything in my power to make sure that this project moves forward. Jane and I have continued to work with Ehlers and Associates. Again, this is a financial management plan leading into the 2020 budget. We are still cleaning up financial accounting and record keeping. Not that we had a mess, it's just that they had certain requirements that we are doing in order for them to step in and really put us in a positive track for what I'm gonna say is a lot easier procedure going into the 2020 budget. So that's been taking up a lot of our time. As I said earlier, we have 6 people that have filled out the interest form for the empty trustee position. We decided that we will take care of all that on April 30th with increments, 15-minute increments as to be scheduled. I did have no external meetings this period, and I had a webinar identifying unethical office practices. So happy to say I don't think we have any. So, and then we need one more topic to discuss. It was not on the agenda, but it's come to our attention. We need to discuss the April 29th Greenville Incorporation hearing and meeting. Potentially, the Village of Hortonville has a 30-minute window to have open discussion on their thoughts towards the incorporation meeting. I will be in attendance. Bob had left an open window. I think you're going to be in attendance, but you had Diane at the time, you had Al at the time. I can't speak for them, so in order for us to prepare for this meeting, we need to know the direction of the board with the incorporation of Greenville and what their thoughts are. So, not to put you on the spot, but we're not gonna be able to do this before the May 2nd. Obviously, this meeting is April 29th, so we can go in guns a-blazing, or we can go in and, Bob and I had a nice discussion this morning. Again, it's gonna be at your direction, so I'm open for input as how you would like us to prepare for this meeting.
Yeah, just to add a little to that, this is the Wisconsin Incorporation Review Board of the Department of Administration. So they'll have a public hearing at the Greenville Town Hall starting at 3 p.m. on Monday, April 29th. They then proceed into a presentation by Greenville. They're allotting them 60 minutes, and then public comments. Individuals limited to 3 minutes each, but they have 30 minutes carved out for that. They've allotted Hortonville, Grand Chute, and Ellington each 30 minutes to make a presentation. Then there'll be another period of 45 minutes for public comments, Greenville's concluding remarks, and then that's the conclusion. And then no decision is made then. They go back to Madison, and there's a written decision later. And when this first started, we were intent on providing municipal services to All World Board. In fact, they approached us. And so we got going on that track. And then Greenville, we came in and put a block in place by taking this action. We initially opposed that and showed up in court, and Judge Desjardins said, no, it can proceed. So that's where it is now with the Department of Administration. They ultimately make the decision here if they're going to allow the incorporation and what boundaries. So, they're entrusted, there are state statutes that, they're supposed to look at density and the various characteristics of a village, which we still think, the entire, Greenville's proposal is to incorporate the entire town. And it's supposed to have the characteristics of a village throughout, which we say it doesn't, but we can just leave that to the state to make that determination if that's, I don't know how much That's the question, how much our input and our position in that regard is really gonna impact them. I can't tell you, I can only speculate. But they, you know, they're up there to uphold the law in that regard, and you would think that even if there's no objections by adjoining municipalities, that they would hold the town of Greenville to those standards. Otherwise, you'd end up with no towns in this state. They would all simply incorporate as villages. So that's the direction we want, because that's a week from Monday.
So it's possible that DOA could draw the line in the sand?
Well, that's their power to do so, yeah, yeah, they make the final decision. So they can either approve, you know, the way I read the statute, there's nothing in the statute that says they can amend it and draw their own. And I'm not certain, you know, my take on it is if you're asking for the whole thing, they would just simply dismiss it and say it doesn't work, come back with something else. That's new territory for us, so we don't know.
I did speak to the lawyer representing the town of Ellington today. She actually called, direct inquiry as to what Hortonville's take on this is. I conferred with her today that it is going before the village board tonight, and I'm gonna ask just that. I said, I'm new in the chair, change of the trustees, change of village presidency. I said, so I don't know what their take is of it. I don't know what position they wanna take. And then I asked the question back to her. What they are doing is exactly what Bob and I discussed today. They are gonna state why they opposed it from the get-go, but are also gonna confer and say, we will agree with what the Department of Administration thinks is appropriate for the process. Essentially, they don't wanna, two things. She said, if you go in it and you've created the battle, but then you go in there and you don't say anything, they're gonna get upset. But if you go in there and plead the case, she also had the discussion from Ellington was that we don't wanna spend the money if it's already gotten to this point, we think it might be water over the dam. So we're kinda in the same situation. We need to figure out what we wanna do. Do we read a statement saying why we oppose it from the get-go, but also leave it at the Department of Administration? Or do we take the time to make a formal argument? And Bob said that he'd have a minimum of a week invested in that to get ready for a meeting like this.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, right, I mean, potentially, you could go in with a PowerPoint and, you know, drive down the highway. You can present quite a bit to get your point across. You know, I don't know that these guys are gonna drive up the road beyond Greenville when they get done. But they do have all the state's resources available to them. I mean, they got Google and they have their own density information. They should have everything right at their fingertips. That's the way I look at it.
So what's the benefit to us if they comes back and say you can't, you go back to the drawing board and figure this out, because that's unreasonable?
At this point, I don't know that there is any benefit for us. It came to a head, Jim, you know, when All World was there, but they've since dug a well.
Yeah.
And so at this point, at least for the time being, it's probably a moot issue, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that was my understanding, was that the village was gonna try to annex that area from Greenville.
Right.
And then run
but then we need
services.
Yeah, but to do that, because we're not directly next to it, we had to have the Ellington owners agree so that we could hook up to that, and that was not to be had either.
Okay.
At least at this point, I don't think that's changed. The people that are living in the town of Ellington, as you go out of town, are not yet prepared to request annexation.
Okay. So there's no, I mean, even if it gets thrown out, Hortonville's not gonna run services out there anymore.
No,
Or the village won't.
we would have to, if it got thrown out, there would be, you know, I guess a window of opportunity, but you'd have to have the people that live in Ellington on board to take that step. And at this point, I'm not aware that they are. They were not before, they clearly were not, and they had no reason why they've changed their minds.
Okay.
They definitely opposed it that night. We were at that meeting with Greenville. Ellington did not want to be annexed in. They did not want water and sewer ran. So I don't know that we could change their minds.
Yeah,
Only development of Highway 15 and the roundabout, then they'll be screaming for water and sewer.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Now,
Right.
the other thing that David talked about is, yeah, right, when we have the roundabout, you know, I'd expect there's something, maybe more than one thing right at that roundabout across from All World. And they're gonna likely want services. As Dave was saying, you know, just, you know, let's say they're successful. Let's say that the DOA agrees and gives them a boundary there, that that's
Okay.
where Greenville is. I think Dave has a valid point that, at least based on things right now, Greenville could not economically provide services.
Yeah.
And Dave's hopeful that we would enter into a period of, you know, reaching an understanding with Greenville that
Absolutely.
we could provide those services and yet honor the integrity of their boundary.
The other caveat is we've initiated boundary level agreements with Ellington, Greenville, Ortonia, Dale, Liberty. East Central Regional Planning is ready to administer those boundary agreements, but everything is kind of on hold, waiting on Greenville. If Greenville gets what they want, everything's gonna fall into place. Ellington has already asked if we could be preemptive and do something with them, because they're also on hold from Greenville, so they're not getting any love from Greenville either. Everything's waiting to see what happens with Greenville before they'll make a determining factor or decision whether or not we're gonna move forward with these boundary agreements. So, in my honest opinion, I think if Greenville gets even a partial incorporation, they're gonna wanna come to the table with some kind of agreement. And it's a win for the village, even if we just take water and sewer service to these people. I mean, potentially they're looking at, if they, and I know what Outagamie County had a conversation with Tom Nelson as well, if Greenville incorporates, they're gonna need potentially more schools, more PD, potentially their own police department, they're building a new fire department. And like Bob just alluded, it'll be nearly impossible for them to run water and sewer to develop this far west. They're gonna put themselves in a position where they won't be able to afford it. So we have opportunities as a village to take water and sewer to them as well, with agreements in place with boundary lines. So it's, if we wanna push this, we can push it, we can keep debating it, kick it down the road, or we just say, hey, we agree what the Department of Administration says and we move forward.
Yeah, I think at a minimum, we would, you know, we did oppose it. We can just simply recap, summarize our reasons for opposing it, but leave it at that, and not,
So is that what you and Dave are planning on doing, is attending this meeting and speaking
yes,
on our behalf?
yes.
And are you at that time going to bring up the fact that we would be willing to provide water to them in the future?
We certainly can make that.
So
part of
that-
it,
Yeah, absolutely, and that falls directly in those boundary agreements, you know, that would be a caveat we could throw in there as well. I mean, that's actually built right into those agreements, that's essentially why they're put in place. Hey, we're not gonna infringe on your land, but we wanna cooperate for community services amongst, it's good,
Yeah,
good governance, essentially what it does.
There's a lot of agreements out there between Appleton and even Grand Chute,
Sure.
multiple
all right.
contracts.
I don't think we wanna, you know, go on the record and say we're in favor of it. I mean, we have opposed it, I think, for good reason, but we could
Correct.
basically, limit our opposition, leave it up to DOA to decide and, you know, cut our costs.
What happens if the DOA comes back and says, no, that's not village, you know, it's that, because to be honest, I mean, if you looked at it,
Yeah.
you'd say, no, that's, I mean, but there could be an argument made that the central area of Greenville is easily,
Absolutely.
you know, qualifies to incorporate. What happens to that boundary area if that occurs?
That would remain town.
You'd
That's
see a
right, so
town
you
of
get-
Greenville,
you
you'd see a
get-
village.
Village of
You'd
Greenville,
be-
town of Greenville?
You would have two
Okay.
separate municipalities. That's happened in Menasha.
Yeah.
Because we still have the town of Menasha for the eastern part yet, right?
Yes.
You know, Fox Crossing wants to ultimately take that eastern part in, but there still is a town of Menasha right now, so you do have two governments.
Okay.
But can they do that? Because you said the present proposal is all or nothing, right? Or,
They can push them back to the drawing board.
okay,
You know, they can basically say, hey, we see what your argument is, but we need you to reevaluate whether or not Greenville will want to do that, because then essentially you're splitting up their pie. You know, they would have to
Oh, yeah.
rely upon trustees then for that. You know, township, you know, your village would have trustees and your town would have supervisors. So you're adding more heads, you're dividing budgets up, you know, you're allocating, so they may not want to do it. They might just drop it right there. There's a lot of open-ended questions, you know, so.
There is, yeah.
So are you looking for a head nod from us that?
I'm just
you
looking
attend
for
this
direction.
meeting?
You know,
Is that
Bob and I,
all
we-
you need?
yeah.
Just that's our plan, and, right, we wanted you to be aware of it, and, if there was any, opposition to that, we'd like to know before we, do that on your behalf, so.
can I just ask one more question?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but say they were granted village for the entire town, how would
Yes.
that impact us?
Well, we wouldn't be able to annex. You know, right now, it being a township, going through a certain process, you can annex town land to be part of the village.
Okay,
Once it's a village, then,
that sets the boundary.
yeah, and that's what they're trying to do,
They're
is
protecting their
Okay.
borders.
make permanent boundaries.
However, boundary agreements also do that same thing
Could
also.
super.
No,
could work.
boundary agreements is just that. They set that boundary without incorporation. So if we go into a boundary agreement with the town of Greenville, those boundaries are set. You are basically saying, we're not gonna infringe on your land. The only way we can infringe on it is with water or sewer or other services that we can provide. That's the whole premise of the boundary agreement. So it's just, it puts it all to rest. It makes for a region rather than, the only way we could physically grab land from them if they're still a town is if somebody approached us. So,
Thank you.
So if somebody comes on the other side of all world forward, moving forward, and comes to Hortonville and says,
Correct.
we
And
need
it-
municipal services,
yep,
But then if it's an area, if there's multiple property owners, they would all have to approach. And I don't know if that's a three-quarter vote or
It's
three-quarters vote.
it's majority,
Yeah.
if you have it either by area or property value. it'd be
But I think
majority,
that's nice when they would come and approach us, rather than we aggressively go with
it puts the cost on them,
yeah.
you know, because you're gonna need legal counsel. I've seen nothing but nightmares when that happens, because those immediately go to council. Usually any disagreement on boundary agreements goes immediately to court. So,
so do you have an idea of a statement that you're gonna make, or?
It's, along the lines of what we were just saying. You know, I don't think it fits in the statute, but like you said, the density isn't large enough through many parts of it. And, you know, Greenville proper, clearly, I think that qualifies at this point, but the entire township, I think, is outside the statute. And that's why we initially opposed it. You know, beyond that, you know, we don't have any other argument. We don't have any current plans. But I think, you know, integrity to our statutory frameworks in order. Wouldn't be much beyond that.
I'm just looking for the upside for us going in and saying, you
Yeah.
know,
Well,
this is what we don't really think that this qualifies, what's the
Yeah.
upside to us?
doing that?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
cause
we-
if
we-
I was
well,
on
we
Civic
did-
Greenville,
right,
it's
well, I know,
gonna piss them
well-
off, so.
Well, but we did oppose.
I got that, that's,
We are a party to the proceedings, so.
you know,
You know, I guess I can go in and just say we withdraw, or opposition, that could be attacked, and not say anything further.
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought.
I think it was reactionary, honestly,
Yeah.
in my opinion. I think what happened was, it was a lot reactionary. There was a lot of angry and upset people with all were for
And
dealings.
that's, yeah, that's what I'm trying to.
And it
that's-
set it
that's-
off, and honestly, moving forward, I think I've said it a few times, in good governance, I think we just need to accept what's happening and look for other developments, because it's
yeah,
coming
that's
our
my
way
point here.
anyway.
is that-
Yeah.
It's
That's my
coming-
point here, is I'm thinking that there's no reason to go in and beat them some more and say,
Exactly.
hey,
No.
we've been opposed to this is why we're opposed to it. I don't see an upside to the Village of Hortonville for doing that. I can see going in and making a statement saying, in the past, we were opposed to it. You know, there was an issue with the development, which is why we were opposed to it. You know, we still feel this way, but we would withdraw our opposition to it because the matter's been resolved now and there's nothing to it. Because I'm just looking forward to,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, we're gonna try to negotiate something at some point with Greenville or Town of Greenville or Village of Greenville. And, you know, to just, you know, throw a little more chum in the water is not really gonna help that.
I agree, and I think Joel and I have a decent relationship. You know, I speak with him probably once a week. There's a lot of things in the motion, and things are
Okay.
going. Again, it's coming this way. It's a matter of time. Before you know it, you're not going to see the difference between Greenville and Hortonville. It's going to be
Yeah,
connected.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying, just, I would lean towards, my suggestion would be leaning towards, a statement that would make a step towards,
Understood.
Okay.
towards, you know, amending the relationship between the two communities.
I understand completely.
Okay.
Other input here, is everybody in consensus
No,
on that?
I think we want to be good neighbors, you know, that sometime development's gonna come. And, with the boundary agreements and other contracts for utilities and anything, I think Hortonville is gonna be a winner on this also.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yep. The only other thing that I had then for my packet was on the backside of that meeting notes was the attachment for the, I just wanted everybody to see who was at the press conference on Monday. It's a listing of the people that were here. Thank you.
Does anyone have any other questions for Dan? If not, we'll move to B, clerk treasurer.
Okay, for the new trustees, I put in your packet, or have given to you the, local government 101 registration form. We do have one person interested. The earliest one is in Appleton on June 21st. If anybody else is interested, let me know and we'll sign you up, or on another date. Just wanted you to be aware of that. Open book was this morning. Nobody came in and talked to the assessor. And board of review is set for May 21st from 9 till 11. And I will be attending the Wisconsin Municipal Treasurers Conference in Oshkosh on May 2nd and 3rd. But I'll be back for the board meeting on the 2nd.
Does anyone have any questions for Jane?
Open review of what? You said open review?
Board of review.
Orders.
I said open, board of review.
Board of review, okay.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
We'll move on to Carl.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the Brookwood Drive extension, AKA Michael Rooker project, should be starting back up in a couple of weeks. We're also trying to work with Parkers on some development issues over there, or concerns, not issues. And the Pine Street Water Main project, again, they started today. I wanted to talk about I did order the additional lines for the Opera House. It'll be a few weeks yet, but again, wanted to go on record of thanking Bob and Ann Schneider again. That we should talk about doing something for them someday. I can't express that enough. And just a little update on the water tower. I had mentioned at the last board meeting that there were some new DNR requirements regarding some construction. Actually, some of the way the tower is constructed. Anyways, our current maintenance contract with Suez will cover those costs, so I don't have to come up with $7,000, so that's nice. And a little ditty about Arbor Day. Peter Oak and Hortonville Civic Association, I think, are going to be doing some flower planting up here on May 4th. I'm gonna piggyback onto that with the small Arbor Day ceremony. With everything going on, I just don't have time to develop a huge Arbor Day this year. So I'm gonna team up with Peter, and we're gonna plant some flowers and a couple of trees and, up here in Horton Meadows, it's right behind the library there.
We, pardon my voice here, Ed. We ordered 96 plants. We're building a monarch garden up here in conjunction with Carl. Dave's been on it too, so on the 4th, Arbor Day
Yeah.
celebration, we're gonna plant from about 11 until 1 or so. So the plants are on their way.
And that's all I have.
Does
Carl,
anyone?
for weight limits on here?
You know, we gotta be getting pretty close to them to come off. I haven't heard from the county yet, but, you know, digging on Pine Street, they're just, it's actually pretty dry considering all the rain, the material they were digging out of there, so I'm gonna guess sometime next week. We have been allowing some work in the village. We've built 5 homes within the weight limit period, so I kinda have to balance weight limits versus keeping my job versus making the village home. You know, that type of stuff, so, yeah, we're still building homes. We're working with contractors, we're asking them to, you know, do some things like driving down the middle of the road, run 3/4 loads of concrete, 3/4 loads of stone, but we don't wanna slow them down too much. This is a busy time of year for contractors, and they're all itching to get out there and create a tax base for us, so.
Any other questions for Carl? If not, we'll move to the police department, to the chief.
Still plugging away on our audit. Got a couple more days, officially 7 more days to finish it up. But it looks like we're gonna complete it in time, so. Other than that, I don't have anything.
Are there any questions for Chris? Then we will go to the library director.
I don't have a lot. Letters are going out to 30 area businesses and organizations for our annual summer library program baskets that they usually provide to us. We had about 20 baskets from local businesses last year, so we're hoping to get a good turnout again this year. So far, we've gotten 5 area businesses to contribute prizes already. Harley Davidson, Chili's in Appleton, Pizza Hut, Subway, and Quick Trip. So, and Quick Trip provided a pretty reasonably large gift card that we'll be handing out at our end of summer party in August. So we're pretty excited to get some more responses from local businesses as well. Just plugging away with summer program planning.
Does anyone have any questions for the library director? We'll move to the attorney.
Nothing further.
Okay, and there is no building permit in the packet. Then we have communication and miscellaneous business. Black Otter Lake District news. Is there anything? Hortonville Hortonia Fire District news.
Who is our representative?
Jim will be our representative. And they haven't had a meeting yet, so.
Okay.
Yeah, you didn't go through committee assignments. Did you need to do that?
We,
Or did you do it one
will
on
be
one?
doing that. We were maybe holding up until we have our
Oh,
See
new
what the
person.
Potential, yeah, so May 2nd, it's actually on the agenda for May 2nd.
Yeah,
Depending on what happens, so we'll put it after the appointment.
yeah, that would work a lot better.
Jean and I and Nathan have had discussions, and she's actually contacted all of the outside personnel she needs. It's just
Mhm.
a matter of what village trustees are gonna go where.
Yes.
So recommendation was to hold off for the 2nd at that meeting, depending on what happens with that outcome. So,
Understood.
And we have no Gold Cross ambulance report. Hortonville Civic Association.
Moving forward with the homecoming. Everything's on track.
Okay. Senior Activities Committee.
We meet this coming Thursday, a week from today, the 25th, here at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
And we had, a new person volunteer, and I did get in touch with him. He's not able to make this meeting, but he's very interested, so he will be joining our committee, our local resident. I think he signed the sheet at, elections.
Correct.
Okay.
So, could I just, library board wasn't on here, can I just say we did have a meeting on the second Tuesday because of elections, right? And, I emailed you, we do have a person that's interested in filling the empty slot
Okay,
on that too, so.
and we'll have that at the next meeting then, to vote on it.
And do I need him to get in touch with you?
No,
Or, okay,
no,
okay,
we shouldn't have to.
okay.
And then, are there any comments and suggestions from citizens present? If not, then I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.